Basketball back and feels so good. Make sure you check out pinned at top the video I dropped already earlier today, taking a look at the three Clippers midseason acquisitions: Marcus Morris, Reggie Jackson, and Joakim Noah, how great they looked in the Orlando scrimmages. This video going to take more of a look at how the superstars Kawhi and Paul George looked, as well as the Clippers system, the rest of their depth, and what else to watch for from the Clippers the rest of the season. Make sure you follow, hit that thumb up button as well if you enjoy the video. First of all, system-wise, Clippers not super complicated offensively. This is one of the main sets that you'll see a lot out of them tonight. It looks like, or I think it can be potentially a double drag for the point guard, but a lot of times he instead is going to reject dribble right into a dribble handoff for the wing, who instead is going to come off it. So sort of a decoy double drag right here for the point guard, who instead is going to dribble right into a dribble handoff here for Paul George to come off with Marcus Morris behind, Noah rolling hard to the basket. As we see again, same action here for Kawhi as he's going to reject it, end up playing a little two-man game with Paul George at the top. Interesting to see what happens when they play pick and roll together, if they can get some teams to mess up the coverages like they do there. And then Noah, you have here in the dunker spot, showed how good he looked in the video this morning, but another thing he can obviously do, be down there, finish at the basket. Another set looks pretty similar, a little bit different though. Key is not going to have the reject dribble this time into a handoff. This time it's going to be little flex screen option. So it's usually Kawhi and Paul George down here. That's what to watch. This is typically a decoy, again, the double drag. But sometimes they run it, Kawhi cutting off this flex here. This time Paul George basically is going to slip right out of it and fly off this staggered screen himself. A lot of times he has the shot right away coming off that. Here you see Clippers get teams in rotation. JaMychal Green doing what he does as a great depth piece as well. Hustle plays. Here we see Reggie Jackson again dribbling off the double drag. This time Kawhi is going to cut off the flex right into a post up as Paul George again comes off the stagger. King's pretty locked in, switching it. So this time they're going to dump it to Kawhi down on the post. And we'll get to him in a moment as far as how he looked in Orlando. Again, Kawhi cutting off the flex here, but this time they're going to run it now again for a Kawhi post-up. Kawhi, Paul George, both of them interchangeable. Good way for them to get post-ups, come off that stagger screen. Kawhi, again, struggled with his reads, to say the least, in Orlando. Cool wrinkle out of it here. Don't know if this was an after timeout play or just kind of another option. This time you see Paul George is kind of in the initial spot, so he's going to set, again, the flex for Kawhi. But now Kawhi is going to end up turning right back and screening for Paul George. So it basically becomes a triple screen. They twist this action right here. So Paul George is going to fly off three screens. And you see how masterfully he's going to have Fournier on his back. Turn the corner, a little change of speed. Great pocket pass. Noah, again, really strong, solid finisher at the basket. Established veteran big man. And then another option out of it you see here. Kawhi again in the spot to use the flex screen. This time, though, he sees the defense cheating it. He's going to fake hard like he's coming off the screen, but end up bumping it high. So instead of coming off the flex, now Kawhi is going to come shoot right off that double. Probably should have taken the shot. Again, got a little gun shy in Orlando. If there was one guy who didn't look perfect out there for the Clippers, it was Kawhi Leonard, but he'll be just fine. Another set of theirs. This is slice. Can be a side out of bounds play. Sometimes a set here for the inbounder as Kawhi gets set up for this slice screen. And then it would become a stagger for the guy in the corner. But Kawhi, again, has the option always of bumping it high as he sees Rui try to cheat underneath the screen. Kawhi's going to bump high. Again, pass up a good number of shots, but this time at least drives to that right-handed floater that he loves. Believe it or not, Clippers have a baseline out-of-bounds play. I believe the call is actually moving. I think that's the call. They might have a couple different variations, a couple numbers, but it is basically just random movement, random kind of walking in a circle, moving around each other. Ends up kind of just having some general like pop out, and you see Noah, with a great pass there as he does on the back toward Magruder so well. You see another example of it here. just a fun play to guard. I always get a kick out of that. Literally, I think, again, the call is just moving. Another thing, another wrinkle we saw out of the Clippers, I would expect to see some tonight after free throws or after timeout situations. We saw a little 1-2-2 full court zone press type deal. They like to kind of try to lure you into one try at the trap right around half court. Whichever side you go to, see if they can get a steal. If not, ends up going back right into man-to-man. Paul George, great verticality there. Noah doing what he does well, rebounding. You see Reggie here at the top again. Kawhi, Paul George, that's a pretty formidable two to have at the middle trying to get a trap. And then if they don't get it, again, then you just force them, run a little time off the shot clock, go right back into man. As far as Paul George, here's him running the slice action. This time you see it. If he doesn't bump it high, cuts right off the slice. And then Reggie Jackson, supposed to come off the stagger. Marcus Morris got a little confused and came off himself. But Paul George down in Orlando, my God, he looked like a top 3 player in the league. I mean, you know how good he is, but I think sometimes we forget or take for granted. I see sometimes he's ranked in the 15s or whatever. I mean, he's freaking good. I think he's going to play his way into a guy who'd be getting Orlando MVP type consideration. He looks in a phenomenal rhythm right now. He just is making almost every shot. Look at that Euro, the left foot first. This is a little set they run for him, L type deal. Basically, he has his choice to come off to the corner right here off this screen, or he can shoot up the top off of Noah here. You see this time he's going to use it right away. Come off Marcus Morris to the corner as the Wizards switch it. And Paul George just hand down, man down. So good at just elevating for his shot this time. The other option, you see him kind of come off that first. Instead, shoot it right off the top. Zubac's nice screen there. Paul George, excellent pin down shooter. Another way to get him in a little pin down type situation. Horns 21 type action where they hit the elbow big, and then Kawhi and Paul George go into split game with each other. Kings really had to switch that. They don't do it with contact, so Paul George has a 3 coming off. You see again, JaMychal, that's his role. Paul George, his role, knock down threes, and then obviously create his own shot. High difficulty, pick and rolls, whatever it is. Zubac's again, be a hustle guy. He's the one guy, again, we didn't see much of as he was coming back from COVID, in addition to obviously Harrell and Patrick Beverley. But luckily the Clippers have the luxury of, again, Noah, Harrell, a few guys at the big spot so that Zubac can play his way back into shape. Kawhi got off to a good start, knocked down some threes, but like I said, if there was one guy who really didn't have his rhythm, and, you talk about not having his feet under him, Kawhi was short and mixed in a decent drive there, but so many of his trademark mid-range jumpers, threes off the dribble, step backs, almost everything was short. So if Kawhi, 2 things wouldn't shock me. If Kawhi goes for 40 tonight, we'll show you just how incredible he is. That, doesn't affect him no matter how bad he was in the scrimmage games, or it might take him a couple more games to really work his way back into game shape. But again, not worried about Kawhi Leonard. If there's anybody who can handle a couple games of frustration in Orlando, it's him. Thankfully, after 10 million short jumpers, Clippers left him in there really to figure it out against the Kings, and finally, late in the second half, he got going with a drive there, and then Paul George turning the corner on a pick and roll with Noah rolling. Great pass right in Kawhi's pocket, got him a corner 3, and then finally we see one out of his little step back move. Nice to see the ball go in the basket sometimes. It's all you need to see a few times. Lou Williams, besides the ill-advised trip to get some strip club chicken wings, obviously one of the elite, if not the best, 6-man scorers of all time. Phenomenal at what he does, just a natural bucket. Not worried about him when he comes back either, as long as he can stay in his room, stay out of trouble. But he is a big-time shot maker, and will have phenomenal 2-man game chemistry with Harrell like he has, and also Noah. Patrick Patterson also shot the ball really well in Orlando. He reminded you, I mean, he's gotten progressively better during his time in LA, but this guy used to be one of the most feared pick and pop, stretch 4 type deals in the league. he looks back in that groove again where his stroke just looks so pure. This kid's not bad. Coffee, you see him handling there out of that double drag off a dribble handoff set, turning the corner. And then you also have JaMychal Green, who plays some with Patterson. The two of them, with their ability to stretch. Green mixes in a few more roles than Patterson does, but also both of them shoot the ball pretty darn good. Terrence Mann, also another guy, got some potential to him. Nice little changes of pace, little athlete, bouncy dude. Landry Shaman, speaking of bouncing his neck around, didn't play in Orlando, but don't forget about him. One of the best pin-down shooters in the league. Guy you can come in, run plays for, 39% three-point shooter. Expect him to make a big contribution. And then Zubac, like I said, saw very little of him in Orlando, but he's a big body, a good screener, a good roller, good hustle player. He'll get back in shape in just a couple games and be just fine. And the Clippers have a really, really talented roster that I think will be right there with the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. Game 7, flip a coin, who knows. Appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you thumb up, hit the subscribe button, check out the other 2 public videos, and the bonus video on patreon.com/ScoutWithBryan. Appreciate your guys' support. Welcome back, basketball.